we are really seeing what this storm is capable of.
The storm shred entire buildings in a few seconds.
Oh, the skyscraper's going. Not good. Oh, no.
Powerful gusts rolling over this semi on a highway, lifting then ripping homes right apart.
The eye wall is almost on us. Going to take a very careful peek outside here.
The deadly storm scarring coastal Louisiana.
Windows broke out, walls came in.
Be thankful for everything that you have, God.
Here we go again. It was 6 weeks ago we stood on this exact balcony as Laura tore through this area. Tonight, it's Delta. And you can only wonder what it's going to look like this time tomorrow.
Historic, record-breaking, unprecedented. Take your pick. 2020 had it all. The deadliest pandemic in 100 years. The hottest temperature ever recorded in the Arctic, a whopping 100 degrees. And a wildfire season that exploded, scorching the planet from Australia to California. Here in the U.S., the 2020 hurricane season smashed records from start to finish. When it was all said and done, 30 named storms formed this season, blowing right through the scheduled list of names so fast, the National Hurricane Center had to borrow letters from the Greek alphabet just to keep up. 12 of those storms made landfall in the United States, another record. And of all the places they struck, Louisiana took the brunt of some of the most devastating storms. One city in particular.
Here we are, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Hard to believe that I'd never been here for any story, for anything, until 2020. Now, I feel like we can't leave. For like all the wrong reasons.
We came back because not everyone here has the luxury of leaving. We came to see the scars left behind. And we came to check in on the kind of friends you can only make in the midst of a hurricane.
Hey,
Hi.
good morning.
Long time no see.
I know. Here we are.
Here we
Good
are.
to see you again.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
y'all
to
so
see ya.
much.
No problem.
We brought our crew
Hey,
today.
how's it going? Morgan, nice to meet you.
This is Case. He's 8.
Hey, Case.
Baker, come see. This is Kieran.
Hey, Kieran. Hey, Mia. Good morning. Good
And
morning.
this is Baker.
Hey, Baker.
She's
good
not so
morning.
sure
How are
about all
you?
this.
Hey, oh, I will take a hug.
Sorry about
I'll
the social
absolutely take a
distancing.
hug. Oh, man.
We first met the Owens family one day after Hurricane Laura changed their lives forever. Mom Rachel, Dad Dennis, and all 5 kids evacuated to Houston, only to come back and find the home they had just finished remodeling split in half by a massive tree. The family, like so many others, instantly homeless.
The things that are important to your children and that are important to you are just in shambles, and there's water everywhere, and you think to yourself, how is this reality?
That was almost 4 months ago.
So you got a billboard on your roof.
Yeah.
Well, it's the 3rd time we've had to tarp this roof.
Really?
Yeah, and they were supposed to use the other side. No Christmas lights, but we've got a billboard.
Can we take a peek inside?
Absolutely, absolutely. Come on in. Come on into our lovely casa.
What should we be standing in right now?
Well, you should be standing in our living room, and there should be a Christmas tree over there. You know, it's our favorite time of the year, like most people's, and I think we were naive in the beginning and thought we'd be home, but that's just not the reality right now.
Right now, the reality in Lake Charles is a Christmas where debris is easier to spot than decorations. Tens of thousands of Louisianans forced to figure out a holiday where your neighbor might not even have a house. Those who do, stuck between insurance claims and a hard place.
I'm assuming this is just part of the water damage.
Yeah, so because the top story, basically the whole top story has to be ripped off because that's where the 2 trees, well, 1 tree was there and 1 was on our master side. So then this is the girls' bedroom.
Their room took the brunt. I mean, the limbs are still in their room, literally in the room. They can't get in there. It's not safe. They can't clear it. So it's been like that since, August 27th?
Y'all's room is essentially exactly as you left it when you left to evacuate for Laura.
Yeah, so we were able to get a couple things out of our closet, but that was it. Like maybe a couple jackets and some dresses hanging, but everything else is completely covered by the tree.
It's like a time capsule, pretty much.
You could say the same for parts of Lake Charles. Just 6 weeks after the city endured the most powerful hurricane in Louisiana history, the Gulf's warm waters cooked up a brutal deja vu. Another hurricane, this time a Category 2, named Delta. Its path, eerily similar when it turned right towards the city, still picking up the pieces.
When y'all saw Delta come right for Lake Charles again,
We knew it was coming. There's just the way the year was going, like there's no way it's not gonna hit us. And you know, the wind died down or the wind picked up and it just funneled it right to us. I mean, just embrace the suck.
Those who stayed behind didn't have a choice. Laura was bad enough, but Delta felt personal. In less than 2 months, 2 hurricanes left thousands homeless, nearly 1 million people without power, and 27 Louisianans dead. With their home nearly a total loss, the Owens found temporary housing in a small townhouse owned by a friend. Space was tight, but others like Rochelle Wiley weren't nearly as fortunate.
This is our nightly routine. It's December 17th. Me and the kids are getting ready to go to bed.
Rochelle's routine perfected by months of struggle. The damage inside her home makes it uninhabitable. When the single mom has enough money, she'll book a hotel for herself and her 2 kids, 12-year-old Kane and 7-year-old Parker. But when she doesn't, her SUV is the next best thing.
Parker's in the back seat about to lay down. Go ahead and lay down, Mama. She's getting herself together. And this is our living situation. This is how we live. Mom sits up, just watching over the kids. The kids lay back, and we keep our phones charged as much as we can. They watch movies, Netflix, until we go to bed.
We met Rochelle during one of the few free moments she had.
and you got to work too.
Yes.
How do you do it?
By the grace of God. I'm a warrior. I never give up.
And you're staying in Louisiana.
It's home. It's home.
When Candace Brignac and her family evacuated to Texas for Laura, they never dreamed they'd return to this.
My house that was 14 foot up off the ground on piers.
The Brignac family home, no match for Laura, that in just a few hours caused Louisiana upwards of $12 billion in damage.
Be thankful for everything that you have, guys. Everything.
It looked like a war zone. It's something that you really don't know how to prepare yourself for, because you go in and there's so many of your people's homes gone. There's trees everywhere. You can't even get through some of the roads. The hardest thing for us was when my 10-year-old looked at us and said, "Where are we going? What are we doing? We don't know, buddy. We have no clue." We had no idea where to go, where to turn, what to do. And that's one of the hardest things as a parent to tell your child.
The second hardest decision, leaving the place she called home. Forced from it by Mother Nature for the first time in her life. A 2020 moment, if there ever was one.
When you roll out of Lake Charles and you knew it could be for the last time, how'd that feel?
Heartbreaking, hard to breathe. Because Southwest Louisiana is what made me. It's who I am, it's my bones, it's my core. I'll never change that. And maybe one day somehow I'll get back there. But for right now, this is what we have to do, because I have to take care of my kids and my family.
1,400 miles south, thousands of families are facing the same situation, with even less. Back in early November, another hurricane duo, Eta and Iota, made landfall in Nicaragua. The Category 4 storms pounded Central America from Guatemala to Panama. They struck within 13 days of each other, taking an eerily similar path. What followed? Almost apocalyptic. Torrential rains putting whole towns underwater. Mudslides burying roads, homes, and livelihoods. When it was over, the storms left 200 people dead, more than 500,000 homeless, and countless wondering how much longer Mother Nature's madness could go. On the Louisiana coast, Cameron Parish became ground zero for 2 powerful hurricanes. Those who call it home appreciate the peace and quiet. These days, it's just quiet.
So the folks who would have lived here in this community would have been one of the first ones to get hit by either Laura or Delta. We're just a few miles from the Gulf, and in every single direction you look, nothing left. Even the homes on stilts, when Laura hit, rolled in about 17 feet of storm surge. So that even wasn't enough to protect some of these folks.
Pat Campbell is one of the lucky ones. 75 years on the Louisiana coast, and he has seen plenty, but nothing quite like 2020.
It's rough with the COVID. I've had open heart surgery, a lot of blockage in my legs. I'm on my second pacemaker, my age. And then the hurricane came and it kind of messed things up.
The house Pat rebuilt after Hurricane Rita still stood, but everything he had around it, not so much. In Louisiana, what the storm taketh away, it gives in perspective. Pat's came early. He was 12 years old when he met Hurricane Audrey, the storm one of the deadliest in U.S. history, slamming ashore with a nearly 14-foot storm surge, flooding almost all of Cameron Parish and killing close to 500 Louisianans.
That was in 1957. And nothing like this happened until 2005. From 57 to 2005, when Rita hit, they didn't have a major hurricane to hit South Louisiana with that devastation. And in 2020, 2 of them hit within a month and a half time, or 2 months time. With global warming, it seems to be the storms are a lot stronger. I don't know if you know, but there's 5 storms that hit South Louisiana this year alone. 5 storms.
Pat's right. 2020 brought Cristobal, Laura, Marco, Delta, and don't forget Zeta. Each storm somehow churning their way through the Gulf before hitting the Bayou State. A first for a guy who grew up here.
And this has never happened before.
In your lifetime?
Yeah.
That's 75 years.
And I don't know, with all the fires in California, I mean, there's something to it. I thought next year there might be more storms than 5. So we're thinking seriously of maybe moving out here. And right across the street, there were 4 houses. And for Hurricane Rita, for 2005, they just wiped them away. And no one lives there now. And most of the people no longer live here in Cameron Parish. They've moved to Lake Charles or moved to higher ground.
This year especially would have been a good time to head inland. Over the course of 7 straight months of landfalls, every single mile of the U.S. Gulf and Atlantic coastline went under a hurricane, tropical storm, or storm surge advisory.
This is rough. This is rough. We didn't even get a chance to see this whenever we were covering Laura the first time because you couldn't even get back here. The roads were blocked.
Today is the first time I'm back down in this area since the hurricane hit. I knew what I was going to see when I got here, and I've been holding off this long just to avoid it all.
Meteorologist Roger Erickson has spent the last 30 years becoming a hurricane specialist. He joined up with Louisiana's National Weather Service, and he still can't shake the memory of Hurricane Rita back in 2005.
I came down here with the ambulance crew, the very first crew that came down the roads to check out how the area hit. And when I got back home, I just broke out crying. You know, we don't control the weather, but we take it personally when it goes bad.
But this year, it wasn't just bad, it was record-breaking. In fact, the storm started before the official hurricane season even began on June 1st. 2 tropical storms formed in May, the first troubling sign of what was to come. What came next? A series of summer storms, each with uniquely disturbing traits. In late July, Isaias formed in the Caribbean before sweeping north, scraping the eastern seaboard all the way to Canada. Bringing hurricane-force wind gusts to New York City, it became the costliest storm since Sandy, knocking out power to millions and spawning nearly 40 tornadoes from South Carolina to Connecticut. In September, it was Sally making a statement. The storm hit Alabama and the Florida Panhandle as a Category 2, but was moving so slow, it dropped up to 30 inches of rain, flooding entire cities and leaving 8 people dead.
You have one storm after another. Some people would say bad luck. What's the science say?
The science says we're in a more favorable pattern for hurricanes, and not just hurricanes, but major hurricanes.
What Roger's talking about is a climate cycle known as the AMO, Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation, a long term that at times can make for an even more severe hurricane season.
So we've been in this warm phase since 1995, and every year we hope this is the year that's over with, and every year it's not. This is the most number of hurricanes we've ever seen in one year. And then to go with the strongest storm to hit Louisiana, the highest storm surge to ever hit Louisiana. The things that we dealt with here locally are things that have never been dealt with on this scale before.
This scale is amplified the world over. Sea surface temperatures globally have risen 1 to 3 degrees in the past 100 years.
You know, the Gulf of Mexico is almost like a bowl of water, and you heat it up during hurricane season, and the water temperatures are in the upper 80s out here, which means more favorable for a stronger hurricane, not just a hurricane, Category 3 or stronger. And I think 2020 has proved to everyone how vulnerable Louisiana is to a hurricane.
The water temperature, not the only issue. In many places, the coastline is literally disappearing. On average, a piece of Louisiana about the size of a football field is washed away every hour. Now, scientists are concerned the erosion is letting storm surge roll in unchecked.
The fact that coastal Louisiana is sinking, subsidence going on down here, and sea level rise is going on as well. It's a kind of a double-edged sword for us down here, where we're getting the worst of both worlds that way.
And do you see it getting any better?
Not in the long term. I don't see it getting better.
So if you want to see what's really happening in Louisiana, we figured we'd drive south out of New Orleans until we came to the edge of the world, Grand Isle, and we're about to see it firsthand here. It's a place that still lives up to the state nickname of a sportsman's paradise, a barrier island that's still recovering from the BP oil spill, not to mention this past hurricane season. This is not a town where tourism is necessarily the big thing, but fishing is king. And if there's one guy who knows something about that, it is Mr. Dean Blanchard. You don't become the owner of one of the country's largest shrimp operations without a little Cajun street cred. When the storms roll in, Dean's the guy who stays behind and rides it out.
So this is your home away from home.
Yeah, this is it. What's left of it after the storm. took a little damage. We took a little damage on Zeta.
Zeta, the only direct hit on Grand Isle this year, but that doesn't tell the whole story. See, for Dean and other Gulf fishermen, even the threat of a passing hurricane kills business big time. Boats get sent upriver to avoid damage from storm surge. Dean broke down all of this at his favorite seafood joint.
That's my shrimp, by the way. They bought some yesterday. They hand peel them over here.
Now, how do you know that this shrimp right here is one of yours?
Because I counted him. He looks familiar.
This one does? That was a good one.
Tough times, not exactly new for those choosing to still live here.
Every time there's a storm, the boat's got to seek safe harbor.
Year after year, Dean says his neighbors are packing up in search of greener pastures, where they're not looking over their shoulder nearly 6 months out of the year.
I mean, we lost 3 months of work.
That's a lot of money.
People get tired of, losing stuff and having to rebuild and having to pack up and leave.
With just a few weeks left in shrimp season, Dean's doing his best to make up for lost time, but admits it may just be a matter of time before something's gotta give.
Dean, you're the guy that's always stayed behind, and yet you're thinking about maybe leaving.
We ain't got no other choice. I mean, if we can't make a living no more, I mean, you're gonna have to go somewhere else.
How bad does it look now?
It looks bad. I'm waiting. They say that the Lord never puts more on you than you can handle, so he got a lot of confidence in us.
Back in Lake Charles, there's a quiet confidence. Recovery here isn't talked about in weeks or months.
Yes, of course.
It'll likely take years.
Hey, good morning.
And yet for families like the Owens, a year that took away so much from so many has only made them even more determined to stay.
We'll fight back and we'll rebuild, but the entire community is just exhausted, it's been 4 months, and for a lot of us, there's not yet a light at the end of the tunnel. We don't really know what's next, or when we will get to go home, or where our home will be.
Where do you go? What do you do when all you've ever known is gone? We came to this place to see what was left and leave having witnessed the one thing no storm can take: a grit and a bond born from taking whatever life or Mother Nature dishes out and figuring out a way to move forward. Locking eyes with that light at the end of the tunnel and locking arms with those you love.
We're each other's home. We're all together, and that's really what matters.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.